This is 25-year-old Kevin Bacon arriving home at 5:35 p.m. on the 24th of December 2019 after what was a usual day. And this is him leaving his house a few minutes later for a gay date he had with the man he met on Grindr. Only, he didn't know that he would not only never come back home, but he would do so in one of the most horrific ways any person can be sent to the other side.
You had no intention of keeping him here forever as a slave in your basement? No.
Doing what I needed to do to complete what I told him to do. Turn him into something that would produce life. What I told him I was going to do, I was going to part of him.
But I didn't even think, like text messages when you said about the bacon, it's like, and I never put bacon and bacon gas.
On December 24th, 2019, in Swartz Creek, Michigan, 25-year-old Kevin Bacon was supposed to walk through his parents' front door at 9 a.m. sharp, the same way he had every year, but Kevin never arrived that day. At first, his parents assumed he overslept or maybe stayed too long at a friend's, but when calls went straight to voicemail, when texts went unread, when hours passed without a single sign of life, unease turned to panic. The Flint Township Police have little to go on initially, but Kevin's parents provided a crucial lead. Their son frequently used dating apps, and his roommate also confirmed that Kevin left for a Grindr date on Christmas Eve. By December 25th, Kevin's disappearance is officially a police case, and detectives are about to be pulled into a darkness far beyond a simple missing person report. They begin examining every detail. The area has a recent, troubling history with online hookups. Just 1 month earlier, on November 25th, police responded to a bizarre call. A young man had been found running half naked through a Michigan neighborhood, wearing only a leather kilt, chased by an older man. Dashcam footage captures officers speaking with a shaken, breathless victim, who recounts being restrained in the man's residence before escaping.
How do you know this guy? How long have you known him? How long have you known him? How did you meet him?
People wanted to be missing, so he couldn't tell me who.
When you ran out of the house, did he chase you down? Is that what was going out when we pulled? All right.
Did he do anything to you? He tried to get me to play.
Asking you a straight-up question, my man. Are you looking to press charges for what happened today?
No.
Okay, because here's the thing, is that if we start doing a bunch of investigations and he says, yeah, you know what, man, this guy told me he was into it, and all this, well, hold on, let me just explain this. And we end up doing all kinds of stuff, and you're not willing to do anything about this, then we kind of don't really have a whole lot of any leg to stand on at that point, you know what I mean?
He'd met the man online before, consensual at first, but this time, everything shifted. He woke up in a basement, chained. The man whispered that he planned to keep him there. When he found his chance, he ran and called 911. By the time police arrived at the house in Bennington Township, the same place the panicked man had fled to confront the older individual, they encountered someone calm and collected, but just strange enough to set the officers' instincts on edge.
Saying that this guy chained him up downstairs and met.
Hello.
Come on out.
Sure. What can I help you with?
Well, I think you probably know why we're here, right?
Well, yeah, the goofy guy that I was having decided to take off with my fuel.
Okay. Well, can you put the dog away so we can talk a little bit more about this? Because he's telling us one side of the story. We want to get yours. Just a little bit here. Sure. What happened? Start me from the beginning of your day. What happened? You met this guy?
Went over to his place a couple of months ago, and then he contacted me and he said, hey, come on over, and pick me up, and I'll come out. I said, well, I got some tile that I need help.
Okay.
I said, then, we can play a little bit. And so I picked him up, he came over, all the tile, played around a little bit. Next thing I know, boom, he left the pile of clothes right here. He just bites still.
He's telling me that you want to let him go. You chained him up?
Well, I got chains and stuff, but
You have
he could have left at any time.
Okay. Did he ask you to leave?
What?
Did he ask you to leave?
No.
He never asked to leave, and you had him chained up in the basement?
Well, he was here today.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, I have chains. Yeah. So I got a sling.
Was this just all like a bunch of role-playing type stuff? I mean,
Bingo.
all right.
Exactly.
So you had no intention of keeping him here forever as a slave in your basement?
No.
Okay.
I've got shit going on for something like that. This is just a little bit of fun.
Okay.
He went completely out of control on it. I don't know. I mean, you make your own judgment on it.
Well, you understand why we're here, though, right? We got some guy running down the road wearing a kilt. We got some guy running down the road in a kilt saying he was abducted. That's why I'm here.
Abducted is not exactly a large someone or some fun, and then, I'm just watching movies.
Himself as Mark Latunsky, he dismissed his entire matter as a misunderstanding. The man insists nothing sinister happened, that it was all consensual roleplay. With conflicting stories, the case went cold when the victim declined to press charges. Officers file their reports and move on. None of them knows that in just weeks, the name attached to that address, Mark David Latunsky, will become the center of a nightmare. Late on Christmas Eve, Kevin's parents find his Saturn Aura abandoned in a Family Dollar parking lot. The discovery sends a chill down the spine of every investigator on scene. Inside, they find his wallet, his debit and credit cards, and $80 in cash. None of it has been used since Christmas Eve, but it's the backseat that stops detectives cold. There, stuffed casually in a grocery bag, is Kevin's clothing, the same clothes he had been wearing when he left home the night before. His phone is tucked inside, his keychain too, but the actual car key and fob have been removed. Is this the carefully arranged scene of a man who wanted to disappear, to leave no trace for his loved ones to follow? Or is it something far more sinister? The answer begins to emerge in the last moments captured of Kevin Bacon alive. This is 25-year-old Kevin Bacon arriving home at 5:35 p.m. on December 24th, 2019, after an ordinary day. A few minutes later, he leaves again for a date with a man he met on Grindr. What unfolds next will mark the last time he is seen leaving his home. Kevin's last message to his roommate around 6:11 p.m. is upbeat, mentioning that he'll be out for a while, likely keeping him out late. And then, nothing. For investigators, that silence raises two troubling possibilities. Either he met someone dangerous, or, as his parents reveal, his history of attempts may point to a different kind of tragedy altogether. The first real lead comes from Kevin's Grindr messages, as the police recover a chat with someone using the name Olikos, arranging to meet at the Family Dollar parking lot, the same place Kevin's car later turns up. Using this, detectives run facial recognition to identify the man behind the profile, and it turns out to be Mark David Latunsky, the same man the police had spoken to just 1 month before, after a half-naked man fled his basement in terror. On December 28th, police return to Mark Latunsky's home. When they question him, he's calm. He says he doesn't know anyone named Kevin Bacon, but he agrees to let them search the property. The police move through the house. At the beginning, nothing seems out of place, until they go into the basement. And it's there, behind a partially hidden room, that they encounter a sight so disquieting it sends a visceral chill down their spines. Long chains attached to a pulley system on the ceiling, and hanging from those chains, upside down, is Mark Latunsky is immediately handcuffed, but as they process the horrifying scene, they notice another disturbing detail. A part of Kevin's has been The search for Kevin Bacon is over, but the inquiry into the mind of the man who did this has only just begun. In a twisted turn of events that will highlight what's to come, as police process the crime scene, Mark sits in the back of the cruiser, chatting casually, almost upbeat, as if nothing out of the ordinary is happening.
Safe, please, okay? Do you know what's going on? Do you know why you're in the back of this car?
Yes, I know why I'm back in the back of this car.
Okay, well, I just want to let you know, I got my detective en route. My detective's probably going to want to talk to you, okay? So,
That's fine.
okay, all right. I just wanted to let you know.
And then once I talk to him, how am I going to get back home?
Well, let's get stage one first, okay? Let's get the detective out here.
Absolutely. And then I can explain to him all the things that you guys don't know.
Okay.
And then I can come back home.
Yeah, because we want to know your side of the story.
The fact that Mark confidently assumes he'll be going back home shows just how disconnected he is from the reality of the situation. But the first real sign of how unstable he is comes when an officer asks for his full name. Right away, it becomes clear that getting straightforward answers from him won't be easy.
So, how do you pronounce your last name? Latunsky?
That's the name that you're gonna have me in your system as, yes.
Okay.
Do I look like a black-haired, black-eyed gimp?
What do you mean?
Latunsky.
Oh, is that what that means?
Yeah. The Latunskys are all black-haired, black-eyed gimp.
What's your other name that you go by? You're saying that Tunsky's in the system.
Latunsky is the name in the system. My name is not Latunsky.
What is it?
Edgar Thomas Hill.
Oh, yeah?
Mark constantly drifts into long explanations about the name, Latunsky, and why he doesn't believe it's his.
But I'm not a Latunsky.
Not by birth?
Not by birth. Mark Latunsky was born in the United States. I don't know what happened to him. There's no record of him after 1971.
Thought that was you.
Do I have black hair?
Oh, that doesn't mean nothing. That's just a name.
Do I have black eyes?
No.
Latunskys have black hair and black eyes.
This doesn't come across as an act or simple confusion. It seems to point towards long-standing identity issues and resentment towards his family.
Middle and last name.
You mean the name you're going to have in your system?
I haven't typed anything into here, so I don't know. Is it just M-A-R-K?
You can type in whatever you want. I don't care.
I just need to know your middle name, too.
The birth certificate that I was sent shows neither my mother nor my father. So, you're going to have a name for someone that I'm not. I told you my name is Edgar Thomas Hill. Mark David Latunsky is the son of Jack Latunsky, and he has black hair and black eyes. Do I look like I have black hair and black eyes?
We went through this before.
I know, but you don't know the facts. And the facts are, how do you turn a black-haired, black-eyed boy who was born a cripple into a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy who's Norwegian? There is Mark Latunsky, and he ain't me, and he never was. You know what a stolen identity is? That is a stolen identity. It allowed my next-door neighbor to shove arsenic into a hole and put it into my well and every well downstream for 2 miles.
What'd you do that for?
Why? You'd have to ask him.
On purpose or accident?
He was a well driller. He did it on purpose. He put one hole under the barn because he was trying to kill the woman who lived here before me. She died. The next day, the neighbors were over here. They'd taken one dog, and they were trying to lure the other one away with a treat. Here's where the roundup comes from. Have a nice day. You don't want to touch anything that touches his cock.
Between paranoid claims about dangerous neighbors and sudden bursts of uncontrollable laughter, it's clear his mental state is already unraveling after 3 hours in the cop car, and the actual questioning hasn't even started yet. Then, after his booking on December 28, 2019, detectives will sit with Mark Latunsky for the first time in an interrogation room to understand the motives behind such a despicable and appalling act. Unbeknownst to them, it will be the most insane interrogation they have ever taken on.
Is Mark David Latunsky. That is not my legal name.
Oh, it isn't?
No. That is a stolen identity. Mark David Latunsky was last, or at least the last record that I have of Mark David Latunsky was 1972. What happened to Mark David Latunsky? I have no idea. Okay. However, all of the people that I grew up with knew that I'm not Mark David Latunsky. And they just failed to tell me. However, when I did my ancestry DNA, and I'm not a Latunsky. So I did the digging, and when I confronted the people that I was raised with, they said, oh, now you know. I said, okay, so who's Mark Latunsky? Who knows?
The interrogation has barely begun when Mark gives detectives their first clear look at his state of mind. He refuses to confirm his own name and insists he isn't Mark Latunsky at all, hinting at a complex family history. In fact, in his mind, he's someone else entirely.
Is my name Mark David Latunsky? No. My name is Edgar Thomas Hill. I've been trying to get rid of it for a long time because that name is a name of a bunch of people that I have absolutely no relationship to. So the name that I go by is Olykos.
How do you spell it?
Olykaos. And had this trust fund. Now I talk to people and I say, what are the chances that the very person who held the trust in guardianship, who was required to tell me, passes away on the very day that she would have had to have done that?
So when you said come of age, what did you mean come of age?
It was my 12th birthday.
And you said come of age for your culture. So I don't understand.
I'm Norwegian.
Okay, so you're Norwegian.
I'm Norwegian.
So what is, explain to me then what coming of age for Norwegian means. I don't know.
4 multi-generational trust funds that would have been set up, who knows when. Things that I don't control the conditions of, any more than my mother controlled the conditions of them. Which is why the people in New York, the families in New York that I've been in touch with here and there, all know more details than I do because they know much more. All I know is that I'm sitting here as the only living Thomas of Wales that I've been able to find. And
So you're a Thomas of Wales?
I am a Thomas of Wales, and I reached out to the people in Great Britain to find out if there are any more. Because as I have looked amongst my blood relatives, I don't think there are any other Thomas of Wales of the Thomas of Wales clan left, except for me. I'm not. And you knew it, and I knew it. But having that stolen identity kept me alive when all of the rest of my family is not.
For detectives, this moment signals a deeper issue. It's a direct display of the identity confusion people in his life had been seeing for years. His ex-wife and estranged husband would later describe how his paranoia and identity crisis had worsened. He was convinced his own family was hiding the truth about him and outright refused any treatment for his mental health. But first, to understand how deep these delusions really go, investigators turned to the people who knew him best, starting with his ex-wife, Emily.
At my son's birthday party, he came out with all these theories that he wasn't actually his mother's son, he was his mother's brother, and there was a family fortune that he was supposed to get, and there was people watching him. And I tried for 2 years to get him to, he was hospitalized for twice in the stress unit. Had a lot of, he believed people were watching him and all those, but believed that my brother and I poisoned as well. Because my brother's a plumber and he did all of the work on the house for the plumbing. And so, but other than that, he was never a danger to himself or others. At that same time, he admitted to me that he was cheating with men, cheating on me with men. And I found out that he had been, meeting men when he was traveling and after work. And so we did counseling for a year, and that didn't go anywhere. And he was still meeting men, and so I filed for divorce. I said, I'm finished.
Emily isn't just describing odd behavior here. She's outlining classic signs of severe, untreated paranoid schizophrenia, all emerging while Mark was secretly cheating on her with men and becoming increasingly unstable.
Any strange things that they've seen or saw?
No, the only thing they said is there was areas in the house they weren't allowed to go in. There was rooms that they weren't allowed to go in. His bedroom, I think, was one of them, and I don't know if they spent very much time in the basement or not. But they did say there was doors that were locked that they weren't allowed in.
Detectives now know exactly what one of those doors hides, having found Kevin's mutilated body. And in a conversation with his estranged husband, Jamie, it becomes clear that Mark's mental state had been severely deteriorating in recent times, which might have led us to this distasteful situation.
And I was like, why would he do that? It didn't make any sense to me that our neighbor would start contaminating our well. But he said, well, they are. You can't drink it, you can't bathe in it. I'd wake up and he'd be over me saying that I was a gray, green-eyed tribe leader, and that when the world turned upside down, that my people were going to need me to lead them again, and that he was somehow the leader of the North. And I was oozing black toxins. He took me to Dr. Gomez to tell the doctor that I was secreting this toxin when I was sleeping.
And that was all brand new since the end of summer, beginning.
And that was since his being fired in February from his job.
Back in the interrogation room, detectives patiently steer Mark away from his royal lineage and read him his Miranda rights first, and he's surprisingly calm until they ask a simple question about his job, and the answer is a shocking glimpse into a life in freefall.
So when you started doing the rub down of these men, that kind of leads me into, I guess, what is going on with the, why we're here, just welfare check, you let the troopers go in and graciously search the house, and they see a man that, who is that man?
Well, who, and again, when you talk to those, on those sites, you can get any name or no name.
What sites did you meet him on?
Gosh, I think that one was Grindr. Okay. But no matter. We chatted for a while. He described the things that he wanted. I did what I could to bring those things about. And after we sat and made an agreement about what was going to happen, we made the agreement. And he was supposed to disappear, be gone. But you know as well as I do that in our society, although we say, a man can just go, Does our society really allow that? No. And what it leaves behind is all kinds of I'm going to say, things for his family that a man doesn't want to leave. Now, the things that I set up for him and plan to do for him in that regard would do something for his family that would make it easier. But that agreement between him and I really shouldn't have anything to do with anything but him or I.
So what was the agreement?
We laid together for a while. He asked me to. I did.
I'm sorry, asked you to do what? Just lay with him?
Just lay with him. Just lay with him and hold him. And finally, he says, you know what? I'm ready. And at that point, that was my it. Now, the going away part and the portions for his family.
In the basement, when did he come to your house?
I picked him up. We physically met in Swartz Creek. And that was when because he had given me details of what he wanted. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what. I will bring all of the things that you would need so that you can see them. I will lay them out in front of you. I said, then I'll step back. I said, you need to decide. You need to decide because I'm not going to force you.
Okay, so you meet him in Swartz Creek?
I met him in Swartz Creek.
On what day?
Well, that would be the 24th. I had chatted with him, so I had a tremendous amount of detail of what he was looking for. Only what he was looking for. And what?
You were trying to help him.
Well, in that regard, I took everything that I had, I set it up, and I put it into a bag. I laid it out in the trunk so that it was there in the back of the bed. And then I got in the front, and I said, you decide. And at that point, he said, I've made my decision. I said, take and, put on the different gear that he wanted, that he selected. He'd taken some and said, no, not this one, he picked it all out. He wanted to make sure that he was comfortable. Mm-hmm.
He claims Kevin Bacon sought him out for this very purpose, that everything was under Kevin's control. His story, though utterly bizarre, is thoroughly detailed, which is why it's so surprising when the detective stumps him with what should be an easy question.
Do you know what you did with the keys for the car?
The keys were... See, he had the keys at first. He gave them to me.
What's the matter?
I don't know. But in any case, we went back to the house.
Mark can describe a philosophical discussion about assisted suicide, but he can't remember what he did with the car key. It's a tiny but crucial flaw. But then, without any prompting from the detectives, he begins to describe the murder itself, and the calm, clinical detail is more disturbing than any outburst of rage could ever be.
I've never done this before. I've never done this before.
Okay, so what did you do?
Well, after talking to him in multiple ways, that is when I said, well, I could do it that way, and I couldn't do it.
But I said, I don't know if that would be painless. And we debated it, all of the different ways that I said, I have stairs, but it wouldn't work. I was afraid I would hurt him.
Detectives already know Kevin had past struggles with mental health. They even know from interviews with his roommate that Kevin once attempted suicide after watching the movie A Star is Born. But they also know something else. Nothing in the chat logs with Mark shows Kevin requesting a mercy killing. Nothing indicates he consented to violence. So the detectives push for more clarity.
And so when I went in, you obviously have on the picture there's the spring to the west, and it's like that, and he said, none. And there was a fair amount of I went like to that, and that was, and then of course it was a matter of doing what I needed to do to complete what I told him I would do. Turn him into something that would produce life. And that's what I was in the process of doing. Upstairs in, because I cleaned it off, and it is upstairs in the dresser drawer. I think on the right-hand side.
Is it a bedroom? Someone's bedroom or your bedroom?
Yeah. So it's in your bedroom? No. I put it up in my bedroom. Just because, I had, again, knowing at least the bits and pieces of the conversations that we've had over periods of time, and
what does the knife look like?
What's it look like?
Yeah, is it like a kitchen knife? Is it, you know what I'm saying?
No, it's just a hunter's knife.
It's a hunter's knife. What color is it?
It has a black blade. I actually, it is, it has a black and gray handle.
But learning about the knife is only the beginning. Police finally locate the weapon, and the trail leads them to none other than the local Walmart. The footage shows Mark Latunsky, just days before Christmas, purchasing the very weapon he would later describe as the tool for a quick, clean result. It was clear by now that this wasn't a spontaneous act. This was a calculated purchase. Was he buying a murder weapon, planned in advance? Or, as his story will soon suggest, was it the tool for something else entirely?
You know what? I'm ready. Where do you want to meet?
Okay.
And I said, hey, it doesn't matter to me. So where do you want to work? Where?
So he arrives in his vehicle. You arrive in your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
You have the gray Hyundai van.
Yep.
You have items laid out in the back of the van.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets out and he sees the items. He decides what he's going to put on or what he's going to wear.
He made those decisions. He made all of those decisions of what exactly what pieces of what was there he wanted, and based on, like I said, it was full. There were some things that went back into the bag, and some things that he put on, and some things he says, well, you know what, maybe I'll try those later, but let's not start with that. I said, look, you need to put these on. I said, I'm not going to force you to I'm not going to force you to do anything.
Right.
This is you.
He has confessed to murder by laying out a story of a mercy killing. a pact between two consenting adults. But detectives know it's the evidence that tells the truth. And the evidence in this basement points to something far more ritualistic, far more sinister. The chains, the pulley, the body hanging upside down. Not just that, but his record of 1 month prior with the naked man incident. And now, as the interrogation continues, detectives are about to learn what happened after Kevin Bacon died, and the truth is more monstrous than they could have imagined.
It was then that I started to do what I told him I was going to do. I was going to be part of him, and I did. It was the new moon, and honoring my word to what I said I would do. That was when it was the discussion, like wherever, whatever is consumable is consumable. So I said, I will, and he said, okay.
Then he admits something even darker.
Where did you do that? I mean,
On the kitchen stove.
like with a frying pan?
It was the griddle. What do you want me to do?
So you would have taken more, put it in the dehydrator?
Absolutely.
He planned to turn. And this wasn't a fleeting thought, because a couple of days after his arrest, police intercepted a package headed for Mark's address.
And I was covered in, not covered, but it's like I had some on me. And I looked at it, and it's like I had done what I needed to do, and I could wash this off. No, I'm not going to. And at that point, I went upstairs and I crawled into bed, and I just left it.
Did you ever wash those sheets then after you laid in it?
No. And when I got up the next morning, because I rested, just lightly. I got up and it was middle of the afternoon when I was supposed to go over and get it on the 25th. And I looked at it and I went, you know what? I'm not. And I left it right on, and I put on what clothing I had, and I went, I'm not going to wash him off.
Where were you planning on putting his... I don't understand. Where were you going to plant that stuff?
Actually, he wanted me to get the tulip bulbs off to his family somehow. And so one of the things he said was, get them to, because I said, if I have the ability to get his family from the south side of I-69 to the north side, if that comes about, then they're going to be on the north side somewhere. And if they're on the north side, if tulips show up with a bag, here's the tulips, and this is what you put on them.
So where did you read about that? Like, how did you know?
Tulips in particular, like bone meal. And I said, is this something that he says, get some tulip bulbs to my family in that way. They don't need to know about it. They just need to know that the tulip bulbs arrived.
The horror isn't just in the act, but in the calm, almost methodical planning. This was a full-blown project that was interrupted by his arrest. But perhaps the most unnerving detail of all is what he did, or rather, didn't do, immediately after the murder.
You assisted him in passing. Did you have clothes on at that time? Or were you naked? Okay.
I was naked.
Okay.
I had no clothes.
So there would be blood on the sheets, though, where you could lay down if it came out?
It would be dry. It would be whatever sloughed off. And I looked at it, and again, maybe my thinking of saying, you know what, I'm not going to wash this off. And even when I was talking to someone, I don't feel that I did anything wrong.
Did you tell anybody else about this other than us?
At the same time, Kevin's family was growing worried at his absence from their Christmas table. The man responsible for his death was attending a gathering elsewhere, still carrying Kevin's blood on his body. To better understand Mark's disturbed state of mind and the circumstances surrounding Kevin's death, investigators turned to someone who knew him more closely than most, his estranged husband, Jamie.
You know, I know there's some conversations, about the Bacon thing, and of course the victim's name is Kevin Bacon. That would upset me, seeing something like that. Is that how you kind of take it now?
No, not until you mentioned it. I never even put the two together.
Okay.
Did you know the victim's name was Kevin? You had to.
I
we talked
knew
about it in the interview.
After the interview, yes. But I didn't even think, like text messages, when you said about the bacon, it's like, and I never put bacon and bacon as. No. No, we're still legally married, but we're separated. I mean, I got out of there because he was starting to just say a lot of very unusual things that just didn't make sense.
You invited him over for breakfast?
I want to say yes. I mean, yes, that I think it was Christmas Day, but no, it wasn't unusual. I would invite him over. We used to go to the gym and work out. I mean,
even when you were split up?
Correct.
Okay. So then do you think that it possibly that the text message that you received from him about breakfast was in response to you inviting him to breakfast?
I think so. I mean, yes.
Okay.
I think so. Okay. And I do remember him saying something about bacon, because, like I said, I lost a marriage center cut, and he knows that.
Okay. And in your best recollection, tell me what you remember about the text message exactly. Like, how did they go, and what was it?
Just that I don't know if I said I thought you might. I don't know if I invited him over for breakfast. Hey, would you like to come over for breakfast? Or I thought you. I can't say verbatim. But I'm quite sure I mentioned something about coming over for breakfast, and then he said, like what you told me, that about the bacon. And yes, I do remember. It seemed like there was something said in a text message about bacon, and you wouldn't like it. And
did you respond to that?
Not that I remember.
You could have.
I could have. Yes.
Okay. Could have derogatory responded back to it?
I could have, or I could have said, go ahead and bring it anyways, because it's like, it's not a big deal. I can eat other bacon. It's not a big deal to eat some other brand.
Okay, so it seems like then he was suggesting that he was going to bring breakfast, not that he was eating breakfast?
Or he would have brought something to cook, like the bacon.
Being at the house, Kevin Bacon, he never told you what he did to him, nothing?
No, I think this is awful. I think...
What would you have done had you been told or made aware of this prior to?
If I had known what had happened, I would have come to the police. If I had any suspicion at all, this isn't right. This is a sick man. I never thought he would ever be capable of anything like this. I mean, he said weird things to me.
Shockingly, when Jamie invited him to breakfast, Mark responded, "I had bacon for dinner last night." With bacon capitalized, it's a sickening double meaning, and once the full extent of what he did to Kevin becomes clear, the message takes on an even darker meaning.
Because part of my culture is that if you have an honorable death, then you have to tell somebody before you pass 3 houses. And so I looked at it, and we've even talked about this, because he gave me the name.
What'd you call him?
I actually never used his name. It was only just before he looked at it, because he said, "Wow, you really planned a lot of this." I said, "I planned nothing." I said, "I planned absolutely nothing." I said, "Okay, let's say that the police have a problem with it." I said, "The police have a problem with it? And then what? They throw me in jail. Or they try to.
I said, I guess I'll just have to deal with that.
It sounds honorable. It sounds honorable.
Well, but in order to make it honorable in my culture, I did have to tell someone. And even when I talked to him, he says, just call me Kevin Bacon. And I went, okay. I said, if I say that I killed Kevin Bacon, he says, no one's gonna believe you. I said, I could tell anybody, and no one would believe me. Because of my name. I actually texted before I ever did anything, I went up and I texted a friend who was, and I'm going to say, what's the correct word? Understanding of the situation, because he was he's a judge advocate in New York, and I sent him a text and I said, you know what, I did this. I said, and I love him. He's my hero. And
I'm sorry, who's your hero?
I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero.
Mark had texted someone saying, Kevin Bacon is my hero. It's a comment that could easily be mistaken as a reference to the actor, giving him a way to hint at what he'd done without actually revealing it. But it's when he admits what would have happened if he hadn't been caught that the full extent of his intentions becomes horrifyingly clear.
We're going to go out back, and I was going to put the peach pits in them, and then the rest of them, I have the chestnut that are in the refrigerator, and I had been meaning to plant them before, but really never had anything that to grow them with. I was going to drop the chestnuts into a portion of them. There's the pile of mulch out back. I was just going to cover them with mulch.
You were going to cover mulch?
No, not the. I was just going to take the internal and get rid of it, so that they were each growing things. The mulch was going to go into the dehydrator that I purchased after. Yesterday, or it could be delivered on Monday, because that was, that came out of the discussion. So I didn't have anything, planned for it at that point. And then I was just going to, crush up and then see if, essentially, and take and pair them with tulip bulbs and figure out some way to, just have them appear somewhere. It's like
in memory or
just however it worked. If it's a matter of getting that to happen. So
and putting them also from
the dehydrator.
Whatever.
Basically, yeah. That's I know a lot of people don't understand that, but it's like I look at it and
no, we're open to a lot of things,
and I know it is what it is. It's a matter of just making it happen. So
we're going to take a quick break and we'll get right back with you.
He had plans, a reality where a human being was reduced to raw materials. The calm demeanor with which he explains everything is truly incredible. At this exact moment, you can see the interrogators physically recoil when confronted with something this extreme. They seem to be leaning back, almost instinctively, as if their bodies are rejecting the vile words. And that calm from Mark only makes the horror hit them harder. As the interview continues, it becomes clear that, regardless of what truly happened in that house on Christmas Eve, Mark is determined to convince detectives that his primary concern was easing Kevin's suffering. What's striking is that this idea of Mark viewing his actions as some form of mercy isn't entirely detached from how people in his life once saw him.
So he was never, did he have a temper, would you say? No.
Not at all. He's always been the most mild-mannered, easygoing, quirky. I mean, he was very gentle. He never had any, that's why it's, and it's probably too much, but I think now it's because he wasn't really interested in women. He was more interested in men, but there was nothing that ever would have said he would do anything like this.
His ex-wife said she never believed he was capable of real violence at all. It makes you wonder how a man so deranged with reality can even get a woman to marry him. And in an interview with the police, Mark's sister adds a longer, more complicated perspective.
Did you ever see anything in Mark's behavior that struck you as odd, or that he had some sort of behavior change from one text or conversation you had with him to the next?
Mark's always been eccentric. Don't know, this is not his personality. I can't see Mark hurting a thing.
She calls her brother eccentric, but dismissing small warning signs as harmless is exactly how dangerous behavior can go unnoticed. In fact, it's common for people to rationalize or ignore troubling traits in people they care for, which can allow instability to grow unchecked until it explodes in ways no one saw coming. The first interrogation ends with detectives securing a DNA warrant and Mark's personal information. At this point, Mark still pins everything on Kevin, portraying himself as merely assisting Kevin's wishes. But police already have the premeditated murder weapon, cryptic texts, escaped victims, evidence of mutilation and cannibalism, and chat logs showing no mention of any so-called pact. The biggest red flag, however, goes back to November, with a panicked man in a kilt fleeing Mark's home. That wasn't an isolated incident either. Digging through old reports, police uncover a call from October, not far from Mark's residence. A man picked up from the Greyhound's terminal by an unknown individual woke up restrained in a basement, terrified. He cut himself free with a nearby knife and fled, calling the police in panic. It would only later come to light that the man from the October report is the same New York friend who received Mark's cryptic Christmas Eve text. "I killed Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is my hero." On December 30th, just 2 days after the first interrogation, detectives confronted Mark with this connection in a second interrogation.
This particular time that he was at the house, though, when he was out running away, he claims running away from me because he was scared.
Oh, he said that?
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that. But
was there a time where you had him held against his will at any point?
No, he had free reign.
It was all consensual.
That was all completely consensual. Now, at the end of that, and I will tell you, because he actually stayed for a.
Was that you had him locked up against his will and was trying to hurt him? That wouldn't be true.
No.
Okay.
His behavior and actions reveal a pattern of seeking out men, luring them to his secluded home, and restraining them. With Kevin Bacon, the pattern didn't end with an escape. It ended in murder. Finally, the detective circles back to the core of Mark's story one last time, about Kevin's supposed wish to die. And this is where Mark's story grows increasingly convoluted.
Not a cache of bodies around somewhere, if that's what you're asking for.
If you were talking my shoes, that would be a valid question, right?
Exactly.
Do we have to be concerned about that?
There is not. There is not.
Is there one other body? One other person?
No. Not at all.
This was something that Kevin wanted, and you were willing to help him with it.
Yes. And it was an agreement between he and I, and that he was going to get something, and I...
What was he going to get?
He was going to get things for his family.
But this doesn't answer my question. This was done for Kevin, and he would...
I said, if this is true, and opening up this trust opens up homes on the north side of I-69, any home that I have, of which I already know that I have
free.
This has nothing to do with Kevin.
It has absolutely everything to do with Kevin. I says, I want to see your family north of I-69. I said, regardless of what home it is, if they're south of I-69, they're on the wrong side.
But him being dead, how does that put them north of 69?
Because if, or should I say, when the trust gets exposed, when the properties come available, then I could make sure and the family that he has gets moved into one of the homes north of I-69.
That's why he...
That's no. That was one of the things that I just flat out said, I will do this. I understand that at that point I understood that he was already not only, so it was a way of one, and in the discussion, he helps me save my family.
He claims he was giving Kevin's family a better life on an imaginary estate, a delusional justification that collapses under its own weight. Police have the chat logs from the dating app. There's no talk of dying, no philosophical pact. There's only a plan to meet up. In the end, the evidence is overwhelming and the premeditation is clear.
The man accused in the murder and mutilation of another near the end of 2019 is now heading to trial. The details you are about to hear are graphic and may be disturbing for some.
Mark Latunsky is charged with 1 count of open murder and 1 count of disinterment and mutilation of a dead body. In September 2022, Mark pleaded guilty to murder and mutilation of a body. The guilty plea avoids a trial, but it doesn't avoid a judgment. In December 2022, a judge ruled that the crime constituted premeditated first-degree murder. Mark David Latunsky is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 11 months for mutilation. If you enjoyed our production and how we explained this case, please consider subscribing as it helps us out a ton. I'll see you next time.